All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. I'm dummy number one. We've got dummy number two,
Dummy
Reggie
number
Matthew,
two.
with us. Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. Where we are just trying to keep wealth building as simple as possible. If it's simple, it's obtainable, and that's what we believe in. Today, what we're going to talk about is really how to. Here's the thing. We're all gonna make $1 million throughout our lifetime, right? If you're making $50,000, give yourself 20 years of working and you would have earned $1 million, right? If you're making $100,000 a year, you're gonna make a cumulative amount of $1 million a year. If you're making 200,000, it's gonna take you $5. $5. It's gonna take you 5 years to accumulate that. So with this episode, what we're gonna talk about is it's not necessarily how much you earn, but how much you keep when you're working, when you're saving money, when you're growing money and trying to build wealth. I've talked to a lot of people that are making $250,000 a year, but they don't have much saved to show for it. Vice versa, I've talked to some families and some people that are making $60,000 a year and they're getting close to retirement and they've got over $1 million saved up because they've been really, really good savers. So it just comes down to really, a few main points and a few main topics. Number one, it's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. And then number two, making sure that you're investing into assets and not liabilities. So, Renji, break down for us what the difference between an asset and a liability is, and we'll go into that first.
Yeah, so an asset can be anything that's bringing you money, right? It could be anything that's bringing cash flow. So, for example, if you have a rental property and it's making passive income, that's an asset. Uh, Liabilities could be anything that's taking money out of your pocket. So
Yeah.
what's coming into your pocket and what's coming out of your pocket. So if you have a boat and you're spending money on that every month for gas, repairs, all that stuff, that's a liability. So yeah, so what simplest form is whatever's bringing cash into your pocket is an asset. Whatever's taking cash out of your pocket is a liability.
And what about stuff that, like, just generally over time appreciates versus depreciates in value? You would say those are, if it
Yep.
appreciates in value, those are assets. If it depreciates or goes down, those are liabilities, right?
Yeah, same
Okay.
example. If we're talking about the rental property, over time,
Mhm.
uh, yes, when you look at the stock market or the real estate market, they all go up and down. But with real estate or land or whatever, what you'll see is the downward trajectories are the downward spirals are always going upward, if that makes sense. Like if you hold on to a property, let's say, because one of the things that a lot of people ask is like, hey, is this a good time to buy a house? I'd tell people anytime is a good time to buy a house as long as you're planning to keep it for a long time. Because if you keep a property for at least 10 years, the value that you bought it at, even if you feel like you bought it at more than what the value was, in 10 years, the value of the house is going to be way more than what you bought it for. So if you're able to afford it and keep it for that long, it's going to be worth more. So what does that do for you? It's not only the value has gone up, but if you own a business, it's also tax benefits and all that stuff. And then with liabilities, though, same example, going back to the boat, the value of that boat will only go down as the years go on, just like a car. Buying a car, just getting off the lot, that value goes down. If you take it right back, they're not going to give you the same price you bought it for.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, right? So, but yeah, yeah. So value or the value of it, it's going to go down. So it's going to be more of a liability even down the road too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so that's the difference between assets and liabilities. And then when it comes to how much you keep,
Mhm.
regardless of whatever your income is, general rule of thumb is that you should be saving 15 to 20% of your money for future you. Start with building up your emergency fund. Once you've got that, then you can start investing the money and growing it.
Hmm.
And, if you're not saving 15 to 20% right now, that might sound like a lot of money. But the key is just to build the habits of starting to save something. Even if it's $5 a week, if that's where you have to start, or if it's, $100 a month, start there and then generally increase it over time. Learn that you don't need to live, you don't need that $100 to, afford your lifestyle. And, start building your savings up from there, where eventually you get to a point where you're able to save 15 to 20% of your income. And so that's what the best savers and the people that that set themselves up for retirement the best do. They've learned how to save. And that comes from minimizing their expenses, and or increasing their income. As simple as it gets. There's only two things that we could do to improve our cash flow or to give us the ability to save 15 to 20% if you can't do it in this given moment. You can cut your expenses, eliminate some of the things that maybe you do not need. Or the alternative is, let's go out and increase your income. Maybe start a side hustle, start a business, maybe do Uber on the side if you have to or if you want to. There's other ways to make money, or ask for a raise. If you've been at an employer for 2, 3, 5, 10+ years, you feel like you're providing value to the company. You feel that as if you're not getting paid enough for the value that you bring to the company, you have a valid reason to ask for a raise. And guess what? The answer is always no unless you ask. So it doesn't hurt to ask for one, or ask for additional benefits from your company or from your employer. So those are just some different areas to help you keep more of your money. Um, Renji, any other insights or thoughts on that?
Yeah, going along with what you were saying, Kyle, asking for a raise, especially if you feel like you've been providing value. On the other hand, if you've been just showing up to work just to show up and not doing the work and all that stuff, you can't complain about where you're at. That's your own actions, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you've been a good employee or whatever, if you're just hanging around the boss, you will make some kind of raise, and like Kyle said, if you don't ask, it's always going to be no. And also on the other hand too, like you could also go, like Kyle said, you could start a side hustle, or you could learn a new skill to make yourself more valuable to whatever that's needed in the market, right? That's how a lot of businesses start. And then going back to keeping more of your money, that's another way to keep more of your money is if you have a business. There's a lot of tax loopholes, and it's not really loopholes, it's tax codes. If you use them the right way, you get to keep more of your money. And as a employee, or someone that's working a 9 to 5 or an hourly wage job, you don't have as many tax loopholes that you can use. But as a business owner, there's a lot more. So for someone that's making 100,000 working as an employee and a person that's making 100,000 as a business owner, there's a lot more options for you to write off on taxes as a business owner, so that you can keep more of your money compared to an employee. So that's something to think about too. If you've ever thought about starting a side hustle, or if you have a skill that you've seen that you do way better than other people do, or that no one else can do, hey, that might be a good time to start something with that. Because you can always, yes, starting anything is going to be hard, but if you keep it up and learn what you need to learn and make yourself better, you're going to provide some kind of value that people can't live without. So that's going to cause you to have more of an income. And at first, it might not be a lot, but if you keep getting better at it, and if you keep looking for opportunities, you might find that you might be able to replace what you're making and more. And in that case, you can also keep more of what you're making because now you're a business owner. So I know I
100%.
went off on a different tangent there, but
No, that's
keeping
okay.
more of your money.
Absolutely. And it brings up a good point. Like, especially if you're struggling with money or you're struggling to save, you know, I was in a position 5, 6 years ago where I found myself like at the limit of what my capacity was for the amount of income I could earn in the job I was in, the position I was in. I learned about business, saw business, and I realized you can take a business and you can scale it to where there's almost no limits on your income. And
Mm,
that's a much better vehicle to be in than if you're in a job where you feel trapped and you've only got, a certain income limit that you can reach or you can get to. So
mm,
starting a side hustle, maybe trying out a few different things just to see what clicks, what you like, what you enjoy, what your passion is, and then how you can turn your passion into a business is a
mm.
great idea. And yeah,
Yeah,
also when you're starting that business, you can write off some of your expenses, which will help you keep more of your income.
yeah.
That's kind of one of the superpowers of starting a business, especially if you're still an employee, is being able to
Mm,
deduct some of your income for a business that you're starting or that you want to start.
mm.
So that was yeah, no, that was a good tangent you went on. I like it.
Yeah. And more
Anything
on
else
that too.
you wanna add to today's show?
Yeah. And more ongoing to starting a business too. I know this was true of me, and I know a lot of people that get into it. It's having the belief in yourself. We've talked about belief before. It's going to be hard to believe in something if you haven't seen it done, right? But you got to believe that it can be successful and test it out. Try, yeah, you might fail, but it's only a failure if you didn't learn something from it. If you take a lesson from it, it's not a failure. You could use that lesson now and go start something else. And
Yeah,
if you learn something from it, the next lesson won't be as big of a failure if it fails, right? You always want to
absolutely.
learn something from your failures, otherwise, it truly is a failure. And there's people out there that might be doing the same thing. If there isn't, then yeah, you're going to have a little bit more of a harder time. But have believe in yourself, work hard at it. If you're not working hard at it and you're not going at it to take the actions that you need to take, then it's not going to succeed, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. So don't forget, it's not how much you earn, but it's how much you keep. And I promise you, you guys will not be mad at us if you save too much money or if you invest too much money for your future. I've never met somebody that says I have saved too much money and I'm upset. So keep that in mind. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a like, leave us a review, and share this episode with your fellow friends and other people that think that they could um, use the information that we're talking about and help them improve their lives, especially when it comes to their finances. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and hope you have a great rest of your day.